Hello everybody and welcome to another instalment of The High Road. My name is Noel C. Blundell, your host. Along beside me here is Remi L. Blundell, my co-host. Hello mate, how are you?
I'm going well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm very well mate, and how's your week been going?
Busy. I've been flat out really.
You've been flat out, yeah?
Yeah, just up and down the highway, running errands I suppose.
Oh yeah, good. So you've been, frequenting establishments for casual consuming pleasure or...
Yeah, that's right.
Have you?
Yep.
That's good. It's good to get out and have a look at how the world works and what's going on beyond our little sphere of self, isn't it?
I suppose so. How about you?
I've been very, very well, mate. Quite busy getting around. As you know, we are up and active on Facebook, aimed Motivational Empowerment Network and Noel C. Blundell. Check us out on Facebook. And we have our website at aimedmen.com, which is going really well. We've been putting lots and lots of stuff into that. So there's lots of interesting reading there, and you can contact us through that website. And we are now on Instagram and YouTube. So we're starting to get around a bit. So check us out. Give us a like. Let us know what you think, because we'd like to hear what you've got to say and have some of your inputs. We're also looking for questions and topics to speak to in the future. But today we're going to speak about a very interesting topic, and a topic close to our heart here at High Road and in the Blundell's camp, and that's mental health and business in the workplace.
Awesome.
Yeah, it is good, actually, and it's a very big area. It's a growth area. It's been growing exponentially over the past 5 years, with quite a bit of data and research going into that space, actually. There's mental health's become quite prevalent, particularly with some of the stressors that the general public has faced in this country over the past 4 to 5 years, with restrictions on movement and diseases and the like. So this has given some very firm data that we have an increase in the prevalence of mental health. Would you agree with that?
Oh, of course.
So, maintaining a work-life balance can be a little bit tricky, and I know workplaces have been striving to find ingenious and creative initiatives to support their workforce to maintain their numbers and to give people a more of a positive experience of work. And to alleviate some of those the stress factors that come along.
There's actual mental health days now, like that are given to employers.
There certainly is, actually, and we need to start to open up discussions around mental health in the workplace. Of course, it carries that stigma, and where people doesn't really want to talk about it. People certainly don't want to disclose that they've been suffering some form of mental health, which can range between, general anxiety, general depression, right through to extreme versions of both those, leading to personality disorders and psychosis. We certainly understand that, but I think open up discussions and starting to create pathways where people are comfortable to speak about their mental health well-being is a positive step forward. It's just, how do employees do that? How do you do that in a mechanic shop, mate, where all you've ever done is worked on Isuzus? And as a boss and a workshop owner, how do you create avenues to speak about mental illness, where one of your employees might be suffering some form of mental illness and you really don't know what to do? It's a tricky area, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
And it's not until we open it up. It's quite easy, really. It's but a few simple strategies and a few simple steps in the right direction. We'll have everyone going down the right path towards looking after each other. You could be a boss who's having a bit of a struggle, and one of your employees has noticed you're having a bit of a hard time, and so therefore giving the tools to the employee to go back to the boss, saying you're right, things along those lines, and building connection and building communication, things along those lines.
I do think it's a recurring theme.
I think it is too.
Definitely.
Really? So we're gonna unpack some of those strategies today and have a bit of a conversation around that, and put a bit of meat on the bones, so to speak, in relation to opening up the subject of mental health and in the workplace. Now, do you have anything there you want to give us a definition of mental health wellbeing in the workplace? Do you have a definition there?
No, but I can get one immediately.
Well, it was interesting that in studies that have been conducted through Harvard Business Review, actually, they made a few statements from the data they collected between 2019 and 2023. One of the interesting parts of their data was that people were asked to rate their overall mental health out of 10 in the past year. Workers' ratings continued to slide each year from 2019 to 2023. 2019, 78% of workers gave ratings between 7 and 10. In 2021, 67% of workers give ratings between 7 and 10. And 61% of workers rated their health and well-being between 7 and 10. And they were citing finances and work itself as a part of the negative consequences and impacts to their mental health. Now, we in the past year, that's now 2024, and we're well into it. There has been more economic pressure placed on society, so therefore that would be increasing the impacts on finances and health and well-being as well. So those numbers are trending down. So people are, less people are starting to feel that their mental health in the workplace is in the positive region.
Okay.
Right? So, this is becoming a very prevalent issue that we need to address. And I think the most productive and innovative workplaces and managers are actually starting to look at this avenue as a potential risk, and how are they going to plan and manage that risk. So, that's what we're going to talk about today. And, of course, we're looking at developing courses in relation to this to speak to people in their workplaces in relation to better initiatives to improve on mental health in the workplace.
Or like talk to businesses entirely.
Yeah, absolutely. And start to advocate on behalf of some of the strategies of how to achieve better mental health outcomes for people. See, people spend so much of their time at work, right, that they build these close relationships, and a lot of people don't like are unhappy in the workplace, right? And so that can also contribute to a poorer mental health. Right, but that also, that can be turned around and that can be worked with, where you can develop ownership in your employees, right? And so they feel a bit better about coming to work. They feel like they're contributing, as opposed to just going and putting in the hours necessary, right? And you feel very different mentally and psychologically when you believe you are contributing, not just putting in. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah.
Right? So it actually delivers some sort of goal. Yeah?
Yeah.
You got that definition there?
There wasn't really much of a definition. I think it just kind of speaks for itself, It's just not feeling really mentally equipped in the workplace environment. There's not really much to be said.
Yeah, well, that's how new this area is. I don't believe there's any sort of, age-old pioneers in this area. Well, not that I've found as of yet, and I still certainly need to do further research on the data that's out there, both research that has been conducted in the past and what has been currently running around, because the environment has been changing so fast that in this area, mental health and the workplace, mental health and business, that's it's been a little bit tricky to keep up with, because, as you know, conducting research on issues of this nature takes a fair amount of time, right? So therefore, when the environment is moving so fast, you could start a research paper in January, but by the time you produce a product worthy of publishing, say by October, December, right, the environment in this area has changed so significantly that may potentially throw your data out. Although there would still be useful data in that document, I'm sure. But I mean, it wouldn't be contemporary because it's moving so fast at the moment.
Yeah, and we all know what mental health means as well. Like it's a state of well-being that, people can't handle the stress of life, and being able to cope with that. It's where mental health comes into it, keeping it healthy. But I think people need to be, I guess, encouraged and pushed to kind of leave work stress at the door of work and not bring it into their personal life.
Well, yeah.
Because the life balance is, the lines between that are getting blurry.
Yeah, boundaries. Knowing the boundaries between workplace and home. That needs to be very, very clear. A lot of people take their work home with them as well.
Yep.
So all they're doing is changing the environment, but they're not changing the stress load. I heard a story just the other day in relation to a fellow who started a business locally, and he worked his fingers to the bone. He developed a very, very successful business. He didn't take a holiday for 10 years, and he did so well, but he worked so hard in it, and eventually he saved up and took his family away for a holiday overseas, and he just sort of collapsed in a heap for a month, and he sat around and enjoyed himself for a month. He didn't think about work or phone calls or customers or anything like that. And on the last day, when he was due to come home, he just collapsed and had an anxiety attack. And that was because he started what had started rushing back was all the responsibility of what he had to do when he got back and what he was doing in the business and things along those lines. And it was such a load on his shoulders when he identified that he had been under so much pressure and so much strain for so long, and he was able to keep all the balls in the air. But once he stopped is when he realised of how he hadn't been treating himself in the right way he should have been. Although he was working hard and he was quite fit, he wasn't addressing his own personal well-being, his physical well-being, and his psychological well-being. And it wasn't until he stopped working, the work was the crutch. Once he removed that crutch, he fell over. So I think, there is a danger of people getting in that situation in many, many different environments and in many, many different workplaces where people are just working so hard that the workload is creating the crutch which is holding everything together. When that crutch is removed, well, your life falls down.
Do you think older generation have kind of been taught that way?
I do think there is some people out there with a very dedicated work ethic, and they work through their whole working life and retire. And once you pull out that daily organised, structured activity, is when some real problems start. Yes, for people, definitely, because they haven't been looking at anything other than sleeping, eating, going to work, because that provided everything, right? But you take that out and you've got a whole range of new issues that are coming online. That's why they're saying that people who retire are in danger of, some significant ramifications. Even potentially, they're passing away earlier because they're just bored out of their brains. They just don't, they have nothing.
Yeah, that reminds me of one story of my old high school teacher. He dedicated his whole life to teaching the younger generation in schools. Anyway, he retired, and a year later he died. Just like that. Died.
Yep. And no one really knows why or what's going on, but his life stopped really the day he retired.
Yeah, it was just weird because like 1,000 things could be happening in that situation. It could just be unfortunate or cancer or something, but I can't remember how he passed. But yeah, it wasn't long after he retired. He just
Well, look at the wording, the word retire. Could you look up a definition for that? I'd like to see that picked. But it's not a very positive, inspiring word, really, as to an activity that you're going to undertake. Oh, I am going to retire.
Yeah, leaving one's job and cease to work.
Right. What else is the definition for retirement?
Withdraw or from a particular place.
Yes, and or.
There's a couple of them. Order to retreat. What definition are you kind of looking for?
Well, just all of them. They don't have positive connotations, really. I think the second one you read out was very interesting, and that was what was that? Retiring or retreating from a place.
Yeah, it was more in a military sense, like order a military force to retreat.
Oh yeah, that's a third one. Yep. What's the next one?
It was leave their job, especially before they have reached retirement age, or leave one's job or cease to work, typically on reaching the normal age for leaving service.
Retire. Let's retire. But I mean, it's when you get a horse that's worked too hard, what you do with the horse? You'd retire him to the paddock, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
The upper paddock, so you can just walk around, eat the grass.
To withdraw from one's position or something, or
correct,
occupation.
And ultimately at the end of the day, one's position or one's place is their life. If work has been your life, you're actually retiring from your life, really, aren't you? So it's a bit scary there in its own interpretation. Anyway, we digress somewhat. There are a number of tips and areas that can be looked at where mental health in the workplace can become a topic of discussion and can be a issue that takes on a bit of a place in the communication in your workplace.
Yeah.
I think where stigma can be dispelled and you can nurture and create a supportive environment where team members support each other. Places that can be discussed, that can be brought up in staff meetings, things along those lines, to open up communications and discussions around mental health. It doesn't have to be specifically in relation to your staffing team or yourself, just in general. I think that's a really good start if you do have staff meetings. And I would advise most businesses or all businesses to sit down and have a regular little staff meeting. It doesn't matter if that's a little two-man shop right through to a big organisations, because it gives you an opportunity to communicate with your staff and the staff to communicate with you. Once you start those avenues of communication in the workplace, you actually start to build ownership.
I think that's why businesses hold like end-of-year parties and dinners and all that stuff, because I think people that own businesses are struggling to keep workers due to mental health.
Well, I've got that down here as well, regular dinners, both dinners and lunches, and because that also gives people, employers and staff, to get together to sit down and actually enjoy a social environment.
But also, in a way, you can have a look at it like, is it the responsibility, or do you believe it's a business owner's obligation to look after employees' mental health?
Well, it's the business owner's obligation to ensure that the business still functions, maintains a supportive, safe work environment for their employees, and in today's environment, retains good employees. Because staff retention is a really big issue for business nowadays, and it needs to seriously be addressed, actually, because we do have a scarcity of skilled workers. We do have a scarcity of workers. So it's going to be one of the major constraints to productivity in Australia moving forward, right? Essentially, I've been looking at those automatic checkout machines at the supermarket, and they're putting in everywhere now. I was at Bunnings the other day, and they were putting in 2 rows of self-checkout registers. Did you know that?
No, I've never seen them at
They're
Bunnings.
not operational as yet, but they are in Bunnings. They've also been fitting them out madly in different Aldis across the region as well. Coles and Woolworths have had them for quite some time now. I was very sceptical in the beginning, thinking to myself, "Oh, don't tell me these multinational companies want to put off more staff." Interestingly enough, that was my initial reaction to the self-checkout facilities that we now see everywhere. And then I did a bit more delving, a bit more research into the topic. And these multinational companies are so concerned about staff shortages going over the next 5 years that they are putting these self-checkout machines in place so they can withstand the staff shortage shocks of not having anyone to serve customers. So they've decided to invest extensively in self-checkout systems and install them at great cost, and start to program customers on how to use this facility, right? So customers are used to this facility when the real shock of staff shortages start to show through.
I think it's going to get worse.
It is going to get worse.
I think it looks better for companies if they can have self-serve things, because they don't well, again, they don't have the obligation to look after mental health issues that their staff may be facing. And I think I honestly think it's purely money motivated.
They don't have an obligation, no. But if for the betterment and the benefit of their workplace and, in a lot of instances, their business, right, you need to address this. You really need to address mental health and well-being in the workplace.
Although it's not obligated, I think it'll get to a point where mental health in the workplace will become, very serious, that businesses are going to be, I guess, tapped on the back. I mean, like, you need to do something about this.
It is now.
Or maybe, now, yeah.
Although it's not legislated for in a lot of places, although under the work health and safety legislation that's currently in effect, employees are required to provide a safe work environment for their employees. And if burnout and or stress is experienced by an employee and they attend a doctor in relation to the negative ramifications of burnout or stress, which has been induced on them through their workplace, the workplace is responsible to cover that, the bills associated with that negative health connotations for that person, and to maintain some sort of income for them until they get better and get them back into the workplace. Do you know that?
Wow,
So, yes, that's fact. That's already in legislation, has been for a while, right? So there's only going to be improvements and expansions on that type of legislation. So ultimately, at the end of the day, businesses, it would be in the best interests of businesses to pursue education and training in relation to better health and mental health, well-being and outcomes that can be implemented in the workplace. Wouldn't you say that would be the only clever thing to do realistically, right? But there's a lot of positives that come from it as well. What happens is when you start to build these avenues of communications and provide a workplace that is more user friendly and is more aligned with the life of their employees, right? Where they can actually start to integrate a life-work balance, right? It's beneficial for everyone. Productivity for the business, it's beneficial for the managers of those businesses because the crises start to diminish. The team starts to operate and function as a more refined mechanism. It starts to operate on its own. So therefore, the culture of the business then starts to develop where people start to take ownership for the business. Simple things start to diminish, like pilfering out of stores and things along those lines. People take an ownership and they start to be a bit more responsible for their areas. They start to give a little bit better customer service responses to your client base. Because remember, if you have customers and clients, your staff are the face of your business. So therefore, if they're not travelling very well psychologically, or they are feeling the negative effects of ill mental health or things along those lines, that's a ramification on your business, right? On your brand, right? So these are some of the serious negative consequences of neglecting mental health in the workplace. There's a number of other things that can be done as well. Things along the lines of taking on teamwork or team building initiatives are quite good to create that ownership. A lot of places today are starting to diminish the importance and the use of staff communal areas like space for a cup of coffee and things along those lines. They're sort of slowly disappearing. If they're not disappearing, staff are tending not to use them because they're not encouraged to. I would be encouraging the use of communal social areas for things like lunch breaks and cups of teas and coffees and try and turn that area into a functioning part of the workspace, right? So your employees are comfortable to use that area just as much as they are comfortable to use their workspace or their work areas, right? Because then you're going to start to create an avenue for conversation and for connectiveness. And yes, okay, that may be a negative in the beginning, right? With people, whinging and moaning about, I don't know, something that's annoying them in the workplace. And yes, that can be very draining for a manager who's very, very busy already. But if you don't know some of these negatives are surfacing and circulating around the workplace, they can get really, really bad if you don't get a grip on them, right? And most of those issues can be dealt with quite simply with the implementation of a policy. Now, sometimes those policies aren't very well welcomed by the workforce that are in existence. But if you carefully build those changes into your induction processes and then start to induct your new employees with the new policies in place and create a new culture, eventually that becomes the norm and you get to deal with those issues. Of course, other issues come up, but at least you got a grip on it and you're on top of it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And creating some things like, 3 monthly dinners or pick a day every couple of months where everyone's called in the lunchroom and everyone sits down and has a bit of, some sandwiches or something, or soft drink, coffees and sandwiches, and it's that particular time. Every 2 months you can turn into a bit of a staff meeting and put on a couple of trays of sandwiches or something. Or you could have a jar on the table for social events. People put in $2 each a week, right? At the end of 3 months, you tip out the jar and you go and you get a catering mob in to come and cover the table with food, and you all sit down and enjoy that experience. You can turn it into a bit of a staff meeting. I'd also utilise that space and that opportunity for acknowledgements of achievement of the business had done over the previous 2 or 3 months, and I'd also utilise that for setting small goals and milestones for people to achieve, and giving like milestones for people to pursue. People are a lot happier in pursuit of a bit of a milestone or a bit of a deadline.
Definitely.
Right? And the rewards that come back to the employee and to the company as a whole and the team as a whole, once some of those big achievements have been made, fantastic. And they're the rewards over and above money that employees go to work for. Workers don't only come to work for money; they have to come to work for money to keep the bills at bay and the mortgage at bay and things along those lines. But there are other things over and above money that keep workers in their positions. Yeah, would you believe that?
Oh yeah, of course.
There certainly is. Anyway, I'd utilise a little dinner or a function, like that, like the one we just suggested, as a bit of an opportunity to thank staff on a more regular basis. We do thank staff at Christmas time. There's a sense of air of appreciation that goes out there for staff. But if you can do that on a bit more regular basis, that may have positive ramifications for you. There is other aspects and issues of workplace mental health too, which is on a more personalised nature. I think people workers also could benefit from having a look at their diets, have a look at their sleep patterns, alcohol intake, exercise, downtime. These are some of the areas that I think that individual employees, workers, could really benefit from having a look into those areas. Now, if you could create a culture in your workplace to actually have discussions around diet and discussions around sleep patterns, the use of alcohol, downtime and how you utilise your downtime, right? And you make these normal discussions in the workplace, well, then you've created an environment of exchanging information, exchanging ideas. So some people you'll find that they will really rush off and embrace this. Oh, I have had a terrible diet for so long and I've fixed it up, I feel great, right? And they start to communicate these benefits to their change in diet. And there are others who'll communicate the benefits to increasing and creating an environment for better sleep. Some will be singing the praises of exercise, gymnasium, walking, playing ball, whatever, kicking a ball with the kids, walking the dog, whatever, right? And of course, there'll be people out there who everyone wants to talk about their great downtime, right?
Yep.
But so you start to create this culture within your workplace around the benefits of self-care that would be captured under the label of self-care. And once you can start, positive discussions in that area, it could only have a really good outcome for your company. There's a lot of apps out there at the moment too that can support some of these initiatives. There's apps for diet and calorie counting and things along those lines. But some of the most popular apps that are out there at the moment are meditation and mindfulness, where apps beep on a regular basis to remind you that as you take 5 minutes out and have a breath, maybe close your eyes and take 3 or 4 big breaths and have a breathe, or to think mindfully, like along the lines of, your phone might go off every 2 hours and remind you to thank the lucky stars for your health.
Yeah.
Live in appreciation.
Like gratitude thing.
And gratitude, you can go a long way, If workplaces just implemented a simple initiative like a mindfulness app where people got to think about gratitude, say twice a day throughout their workday, right? And as silly as that sounds, and then I know the biggest knockers would knock it in the beginning, but after, say, a month or two, it would become the norm of the culture of the workplace. I think you might find a lot of employers would be going around and they'd be a little bit more happier about what's going on in their lives, right? Gratitude, an attitude of gratitude has that ability to do that, yeah?
Yeah.
I think it does.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because coming into the workplace now, and it's just recently been introduced, and this is probably going to be new to some people, neurosurveillance.
Oh.
It's a, have you heard about this?
No.
It's like, the bosses can have glasses or a thing they put on your head, and they track your productivity of your brain waves, of the frequencies in your brain waves, and they know when you're not doing work, and they know when you're not being productive enough.
Yes. Well,
and I wonder if that can be used to track mental health.
Well, it probably could, but there's a lot of controversy around issues along those lines, because there's a number of products on the market at the moment in relation to that. There's collars that they're like they're like those travel sleeping pillows you put around your neck.
Yeah.
Well, there's collars that have been invented that buzz when you start to get a little bit sleepy. So when you're sitting at the desk, it'll buzz to wake you up again to keep you productive.
Really?
Yes.
I don't see how that even helps mental health, though.
Well, this is what I mean, and issues and things along the lines of glasses or implants or chips and things along those lines. There's argument there that'll create more stress than it alleviates, and also it's open to exploitation. So as well, by employers, right, giving them the power to exploit that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and I propose the question of, will it help with mental health? Because I don't know if it will. Like, you're bringing more technology into the workplace in an already demanding environment where mental health may not be as healthy as, I guess, the boss wants their employees to be, and then they want to go monitor that. Like, that, surely that's not going to go too far. And I think the future is obviously evolving, and they're always bringing new technology, and that has to be considered when it comes to mental health. Would I want to be monitored at work?
I absolutely, and I personally feel that there is other ways to go about it, as opposed to putting technology on the human body and having it buzz, beep, squeak or whistle when you're tired or not productive enough or not walking fast enough and things along those lines. I think that has a potential dark side, which we'll see well before the ramifications on productivity and things along those lines. There's other ways to do it. You can do that. You can get better productivity out of spending time and opening up a environment or a culture of communication across your group, across your staffing team. Right? I dare say opening up that's a simple avenue of communication and embracing communication. Right? Communication's been an area. There's degrees in communication. People are employed in the area of communication, 40 hours a week, 5 days a week, 365 days a year. This is significant, right? But I don't think we utilise it to its fullest benefits in the workplace. And we tend to overlook communication when we have difference of opinions, don't we?
Yeah.
Right? Where it needs a facilitator to actually to encourage and open up communication in the face of disagreement. Yeah?
Yep.
And we don't have enough of that nowadays. We disagree. We're now mortal enemies for the rest of our lives. We're not given avenues where we can sit down and actually go through difficult and uncomfortable conversations to some sort of resolution, and then shake hands at the end of the day and say, okay, we're mates. Years ago on the football ovals and sporting games and things along those lines, where there was rivalries, and people would get come to blows usually. Well, the amount of lifelong friendships that have been established from people coming to blows, is amazing. Was amazing. Lots of stories I heard from my grandfathers and uncles, and who were much older than me when I was a child growing up, about rivalries like that on the football oval, and he elbowed me and I tripped over him, and then I got up and gave him a thumping, and we've been great mates now for 35 years. That sort of stuff, because they had the ability to get over their grievances and move on, instead of holding on to this victim mentality. Anyway, that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah,
if you get what I mean.
I just want to dive into the neural tracking thing, because it could be used to track mental health, and I think that's going to appeal to workers for that point. But the ethics of it is in question. But I think if mental health becomes an actual, not an actual, it is an actual issue, but I mean a increasingly concerning one, technologies will come in to monitor it.
Yeah, well, I'm concerned about something that dehumanises people.
Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting topic, because it is gonna, neuro devices are coming in, and in terms of mental health, I don't see how it won't be involved in that at all.
Yeah, well, I hope not, because I don't, as I said, I'm a little bit sceptical about things that employees will attach to their employers would like to attach to their employees, that buzz, whistle, vibrate, or, when you're not walking fast enough, or you've whizzed off to the toilet because you got a bellyache, or, you get what I mean? It dehumanises it. It has the potential to reduce the human being down to a commodity.
I think that's not
thing.
That's not going to help mental health at all.
No, that is not. No, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Or where we need to go. We are still emotional beings that operate very much emotively, if I could use that, right? Now, keep in mind that leaders and leadership are the harbingers of good health, and this is what I think we haven't really embraced in the workplace. I think it can help also that the bigger workplaces, or workplaces who have the ability to do so, of nominating a health and wellbeing officer. Now that can be the person with the who with a bit of knowledge around wellbeing, who may have an interest in wellbeing, who would like to speak to people in relation to wellbeing, because you'll find in your workplace there is multiple people there who are happy to lend a hand in some way, shape, or form within their capacity. And those people could be charged with putting flyers up around the workplace, nutritional meals, having photocopying recipes of healthy recipes to throw on the lunch table for people to take home. Things along the lines of bringing up topics to be spoken about at staff meetings in relation to health and well-being. Doesn't have to be mental health. It can be a topic like hydration when the weather's a bit warm. How much water should we be drinking while we're at work? How do you monitor your hydration in your body? What are the negative effects of being dehydrated in the workplace? It's just topics like that, And given a person, the nominated officer of well-being, that mantle, he can even make a bit of a note about what he'd spoken about. So if anyone takes his place, they can have a read through that and go over some of those things, because we have a summertime every year, don't we? Yep. We have a winter time every year. We could do something around washing our hands, and you can minimise and limit the spread of common colds and flus. It's as simple as that, as some of the strategies that can be implemented, and this can be also absorbed in the existing structure of the business's implementation. It just needs to be brought to the awareness of the business operators.
So you think that our conscious awareness of appeasing our physical body is taken away when we're indulged in an overwhelming amount of work?
Yes, it can be. Yes, it can be. And I have heard that time and time again. People go utilising their workplace as an escape to life. They're escaping life.
That's right.
And the pain of escaping life when they're not at work is usually dulled with the use of alcohol. Right?
Yep.
Usually. And that is quite a popular remedy. Some people use the gym. Some people use a sport. Some people use, well, I don't know, talking to neighbours. But a lot of people use alcohol, right? And they use alcohol until they go to sleep. And because you consume alcohol, alcohol puts your body into a sleeping pattern known as rapid onset, short duration sleep patterns. Means when you go to sleep, you drop into a deep sleep very quickly, which is the rapid onset, and you go right down into a dream state, and then you come out of that dream state because you only sleep for a short duration. When you consume alcohol, it's usually you only sleep for about 2 hours at a time because you are hydrated before bed. Also, you'll need to urinate, right? So there's this aspect, and you'll go through that cycle about 3 times. Well, that's not sound sleep. And you're up out of bed and you're back into work again at 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning for another 8, 9, 10 hours of responsibility, right? So that's just one issue of health and well-being around sound mental health and solid beneficial psychological practices, you know.
Yeah.
But there's some of the issues that we wanted to bring to your attention. And it's not hard to develop mentally healthier cultures in your workplace. Remi and myself have been looking into this area considerably, and we're going to be taking workshops out to workplaces to have discussions around some of these issues and present a model, an educational model through workshops of how to implement some really simple strategies to help yourselves, managers and employees, to have a interest in their mental health and well-being for the betterment of themselves, their workplaces, and ultimately at the end of the day, as their customer base and their society as a whole, community and society as a whole. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? Is there anything else you want to add to that before we
close
up today?
I think that's everything. I thought we covered all bases. It was pretty good.
I think it was really good. I think it's a really interesting topic, and I think we'll come back and speak to that one again and some more once we go down that and get some more current data on it.
The topic is growing for sure.
Absolutely, and it's very, very important because this issue is not going to go away.
No.
And the negative ramifications of poor mental health is people go off sick. People have their lives derailed for years and years and years. People turn to medication, which they don't really need.
And
now there's a lot to be said about medication. It works for some people in some circumstances, and people cannot get through that difficult time without it. Don't get me wrong.
Because can I just talk? I want to mention as well the long-term effects of poor mental health in the workplace. Like some people don't even know what's happening to them. It's like, my mental health is good, but then some people start looking unhealthy over a period of a decade.
Yep.
Like they, say they put on weight, or
yep.
They don't take care of themselves in a way. They eat terribly. They don't realise how much they're declining, and maybe that's the way some people want to live, and that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
But I'm talking about mental health here, and all those things are characteristics of a declining mental health. And so I think jumping on it early and it being a rising topic amongst business owners is an alarming thing. I think people are going to take more interest in looking after their mental health once their business owners are taking it as a serious issue.
Correct. And there's some business operators out there, I can hear them saying to themselves, I don't need that. There's just me and the wife are working here, and I get that too. But guess what? You and your wife are the most important part of the business. If one of yous fall over with poor mental health, right, you're in a major crisis.
Yeah.
So realistically, you smaller guys may be the ones that could really do with a bit of a refresher around good mental health practices, right? There might only be 1 or 2 or 3 here in the workshop. That doesn't mean it's not prevalent. it doesn't mean it's not an issue that really should be looked at, right? Because with you guys who are smaller, and I know because I come from a small business background, right, many years ago, so I'm quite well versed on the ups and downs and nuances of small business and medium-sized business implementation as well. In those little businesses that have 2 or 3 workers in there, if one drops out, the other 2 have to pick up the workload. You could be stretched. I know managers are stretched already. So a manager's day can go from 11 hours to 13, 14 hours quite easily when a staff member's off sick. So you would really like to get a bit of a grip on the health and well-being of the people that you're working with, because it will directly affect you, and it does. So these are some of the issues that we want to talk about in going forward, and when we come out to workplaces and have a chat about mental health well-being in a workshop type format. Anyway, if you'd like to speak to us about those workshops and those formats, please feel free to contact us on aimedmen.com. You can contact us through the contact portal there, or reach out on Facebook, Noel C. Blundell, or Aimed Motivational Empowerment Network. Just send us a line, even if you've got questions you want to ask in relation to the implementation of workshops around mental health in the workplace. Please reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions. And look, I think everybody just wants to do the best they can, don't they?
That's right.
Really? And we're all getting on trying to have a good time here, and trying to etch out life and do the best we can. And we don't want that to be any harder than it has to be. Yeah.
What is the best they can worth the sacrifice of their mental health?
No. Well, it's not the best you can be if you're sacrificing your mental health.
Right.
Let us show you the ways to turn that around. All right, mate. That should finish up there.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
And you take care. Thank you very much. And thanks for listening. We'll see you all very soon in our next installment of The High Road. Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.